Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Core Energy Experience. Tonight, we have a very special guest. As you know, every guest is special. We're all unique and have our uniqueness about us, and we're going to bring that here tonight. Our guest tonight, I will say, is a little extra special in many different ways. He's a man of many travels, of lots of wisdom, and has a lot to say, and very excited and very honored to have Jason Tucker, Pastor Jason Tucker, here tonight. Pastor Jason, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, that's great. Very, very happy to have you here. So if we will, just to get into a little bit, so we can give a little background to the audience, give us your travels from the West Coast to the East Coast to help you out a little bit.
Yeah, my goodness. So grew up in Southern California, just outside of Los Angeles County. And I was 15 years old, and my family, we had just sort of like a combination of factors happen. One was, at the time, I think all three of us kids had asthma because of the air quality.
Really?
Yeah, because of air quality. We had, there were some other issues going on that time in the suburbs of Southern California. There was a little bit of fear that gangs from the city were starting to infiltrate. And at the same time, we had a bad earthquake. And in the middle of all that, my parents decided for a clean break from Southern California. And my mom's family was all from New Jersey. So they decided, hey, let's pick up. Let's go to New Jersey. I was in the middle of high school, which was kind of a drag, you know. Like,
must have been, yeah.
It was tough. But we moved, and we ended up in the Poconos of Pennsylvania because it was cheaper. So we moved to East Stroudsburg, and that's where I finished high school and where our family lived for a while. But it was quite a change. So I always joke around. I say, that's why you'll catch me wearing shorts and flannel at the same time.
Of course. I know the mountains well. It's beautiful. Poconos are beautiful.
It is, yeah. Very beautiful.
Interesting to go from, what you did in Los Angeles area, Southern Cal area, if you will, to the Poconos. Let's talk about that for a quick second. The environment change, and then also I'm going to, pile on a little bit. Being in high school, that's a difficult time, as we know.
Yeah, for sure. So just weather-wise, I was not prepared for feeling as cold as I felt that first winter.
Had you seen snow?
No. Well, yes, I'd seen snow, but I'd never been in active snow. I'd only seen snow on the ground. Like in Southern California, you could go drive, you could go ski up in the mountains and stuff, but I'd never seen an actual snowstorm. And I remember waiting for the bus, and it was maybe November, and there's frost on the grass and everything. And it was the first time I was like legit cold. And I'm like, this is very different. But I loved it because I felt like I came from a place that had no seasons. So I've always enjoyed the seasons. This winter, however, I'm done. I'm ready for spring.
I think we all are on that one. That's for sure. And the high school change at that time, that's not easy.
No, it was really hard. I think especially because, as a freshman, I had my friends. I was involved in sports. I played water polo, and at least at the time,
cool.
Water polo. I know, it was great.
Whoa,
I know. And with this build, I played. I know, I really did. And,
you're a stocky, strong
man. The
coaches
loved me, and so I felt like I was also giving away a real opportunity to play in high school and everything. And so we moved out. And I remember talking with the athletic director when we moved out to the Poconos. And at the time, water polo was not a thing on the East Coast, at least not in the Poconos. And I remember asking if they had a water polo team. And he didn't laugh at me, but I felt like in his head, he was going, "Won't the horses drown?" You know what I mean? Like, I think he had no idea. They had no idea what water polo was.
Right.
But the football coach was in the room, and he goes, "You ever play football?" And then he goes, "No." He's like, "Come with me." By the end of the day, I had pads. I was signed up. I was ready to go. So I ended up playing football the rest of my high school day, which I loved.
Yeah. The camaraderie of it, yeah.
To me, there's been no team sport like it. Yeah.
Well, water polo, my gosh, I've always been fascinated by it. Having grown up and lived around here in New Jersey, the shore, big swimmer. But polo, I've tried treading water for some time for exercise. My goodness, the stamina you need.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your mentality? What brought you to water polo?
I had a buddy in 8th grade who, a few guys from middle school kind of started doing these workouts at the high school as they were starting to develop some new players. As we were becoming
boys, or what was that?
No, but just they were kind of the cool kids,
Sure. Yeah.
So my friend David, he we were doing a sleepover at his house, hanging out, and he goes, "You should come play water polo with us." And I'm just like, "What?" And he said, "No, it's really fun." And I always loved swimming, so I went. And I remember the first workout, I was toast. I just could not. I'd never been so tired in my life, but I don't think I had ever had that much fun either. So, the only downside was the bathing suit situation, which, we're not going to go into, but having to do that.
You mean a tighty?
And water polo is nasty. I don't know if you know, under the water, what happens.
Pinching, kicking, and everything else.
You have to wear 2 suits because they try to rip them off. They try to anything they can to stop you.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I know.
I didn't know that.
Now you know. That's right.
Yeah, I did know there's a lot of extracurricular activity going on. It's like in football, too, at the bottom of the pile.
Oh, yeah.
When there's a fumble.
Yeah.
Pinching, poking the eyes.
Oh, yeah. It's like...
Stuff like that.
Anything goes.
Yeah. So once the family started settling in, you started settling in. What did you start doing after high school?
Yeah, so after high school, my whole goal in life was to go to medical school to become a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I had in my head I wanted to be a heart surgeon.
Wow.
And I was looking for a school that had a high acceptance rate into medical school, and a school that would, if not give me scholarship money, just give me a good package that our family could afford. We didn't have a lot of means, and I was the first in my family to go to college. So It was a big deal. And I ended up at Allegheny College. At the time, they had I don't know if it's still the case, but at the time they had a really high acceptance rate into medical school. So I'm like, let's go. Got accepted, was really excited about that. I started out, I was going to play football there, and I quit right away. And part of it's because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to really devote the time to my studies and to play, especially if you're really just playing for fun and it's like a job. So I was like, I'm not going to do this.
So the reality of realizing you're not going to go anywhere after college with it.
Exactly. I ended up playing rugby, actually, which was a blast.
Listen to you go.
That was a blast.
You liked rugby, huh?
I loved it. I loved it.
You rugby players are nuts.
Oh, yeah, we're a little crazy. But it was the fun of football without feeling like it's a job.
Yeah.
So it was great. So I did that, went off to college, and I had a big change in my life after that freshman year. And that's when I came to faith. And that was a whole it would just turn my life completely in a different direction.
Can you explain that a little bit deeper for us, please?
Yeah. So I got to college, and I felt like my whole young life up until college, I was building a resume. That's why I did all the sports, and that's why I did National Honor Society.
This was conscious thought?
Yeah. Because
it's awful good for a young boy or a young man.
Well, it was until it wasn't. So I get to school, and I think in my head, I had placed college in this place where, like, if I just get to the right college, it's like everything else is just going to be set.
Sure.
And I remember getting there, and this is going to sound mean, but I was looking around at some other of the students, and I'm just like, how'd that guy get in?
Right.
Because I'm thinking, he didn't work as hard as me. And I started taking some science classes that I had to take. Organic chemistry killed me. And I started thinking, I don't know if I really want to be a doctor. I've gotten this far, and I don't know. I felt like college was going to finally make me feel fulfilled and whole.
This is sophomore year?
This is freshman year.
Oh, freshman year even.
And it didn't. I realized when I got there, it wasn't the magic answer that was going to finally make me happy.
Right.
And I also realized that the expectations of becoming a doctor was something I placed on myself on behalf of my family.
Oh.
I felt like that was to show them I was going to make it. I was going to be a success. And when I came to that realization, I got very depressed because I didn't know what that meant for my life. And I got super into all the college things, got into partying and everything. And it was like this this void that couldn't possibly be filled. So I'd party to kind of numb the pain, have fun.
Sure.
And I'd forget about it for a night. And
college experience.
Right. Wake up the next morning, and I felt like that hole inside of me was deeper. So I'd have to fill that again. And it was this cycle until by the time I ended freshman year, I was a shell of my former self.
Wow.
And it was at that time I was looking for a summer job. And back in the old days, Kurt, we had newspapers that had the jobs in them.
Right.
And
yeah. You want to get those on Saturday, by the way, for the Sunday
That's
edition.
right.
Get them early.
I remember going home after college, and just like every college freshman probably, I was just like, I don't need to be living by any rules.
There you go.
I'm independent now. I'm growing up.
You're college,
I set
man.
my own schedule or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I decided I needed to get out of the house for the summer. And I remember my mother, I was always really close with her, and she noticed right away that I wasn't right. That I wasn't happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just shut her down. I didn't want to talk about it. I'm looking in the newspaper, and I see an ad for a counselor at a summer camp. I'm like, I love summer camp. It's going to be great. And it said it was
You're an outdoor guy. You're an athlete.
Right.
Yeah, it fits.
and kids. I love kids.
Great.
And it said it was a Christian camp. And what I thought in my head was like when I was little going to the YMCA, just a nice place where people were nice. I didn't know what that meant because I didn't know anything about church. I wasn't raised in church at all.
So back to the studying world a bit.
Yeah. And so I applied for the job. They called me in to interview. The camp wasn't too far from my home. And I remember they were asking me all these questions about God. And I don't know if there's a nice way to say it. I told them what I thought they wanted to hear. I had no idea what I was talking about.
Sure.
And they're just like, oh, how has God helped you in your life? And well, you see, God really helped me. And I was full of it. Now, I didn't fool them. They knew. But here's the wild part. I found out years later that both the husband and wife that ran the camp had prayed about me. And they said that they felt they were supposed to hire me anyway.
Wow.
Talk about trust on
Yeah.
their part.
You bet. Trust
So
in
they
the
offer me
process.
the job. They hire me. And I'm there for an hour. And I realize I do not belong here.
Oh, boy. Oh, really? Quick judgment came in on that one, huh?
So here's a bunch of other college-age kids doing their thing at camp. But I felt like I stumbled onto a cult.
Oh, really?
Because they all had, you ever see those Bible carriers? You know what I mean? With
Sure,
like
yeah.
handles on them? Okay. So
Absolutely.
they all had these Bible carriers. They're walking around and talking about Bible things. And I'm like, what is this place? What are they doing? Like, I got to get out of here.
A little different in Southern California.
Oh,
and what your
little.
purpose was to start, you know? That's what
right.
I'm kind of hearing. Your purpose was like, you understood your purpose, and then all of a sudden your purpose shifted.
It did.
Totally.
It did. And I was going to quit. I decided that after 3 days, I decided, okay, I can't stay here. I'm going to be found out.
Right.
I'm an imposter. And I was invited to go on a hike at night with all the counselors. And the only way that I could explain was as they were all singing songs, worship songs, which I had never heard people do before, just randomly.
Wow, you're really new to it all.
I was new to everything. I've never experienced it at all. And
Holy cow.
I started feeling something inside of me that to this day, I don't know that I could really explain, other than I felt like I was being torn in two from the inside.
Ouch.
And here are the two pieces. One piece said, what are you doing here? Religion's a crutch for the weak-minded.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of raised with. And I'm like,
Oh, really?
I'm like, well, you don't need this. Get out. Go do something else. And the other part of me was, no. This is real.
Your
And
spirit,
you need this.
your spirituality coming through,
Yeah.
if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And later that night, get to the top of the hill. They set up a campfire. Everyone went to a time of prayer where everyone's praying for each other. And I was like, what is this? We all just met each other like 3 days ago, and they're like bearing their souls about all these things going on in their life.
Right.
And I was like, and there was a long silence in the prayer. And I stood up and I said, I'm not a Christian. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here.
Good for you.
I said, but I have to admit, there's something about it. I want to know more. But I'm leaving in the morning. Yeah, basically like I'm quitting, but I want to know more. And then one by one, they started praying for me, just that whatever happened, that God would make himself known in my life. And again, I don't know how to explain it with words, but I felt something inside. I'd never received such love from people, let alone strangers.
Yeah.
And afterwards, my friend Craig came up to me and said, "Do you want to hear about Jesus and what he did on the cross?" I said, "Yes." And he started explaining to me, he was reading through the Bible, reading through Romans, explaining what Jesus did. And remember in the old days before satellite radio, when you're driving through like West Virginia and you have no...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fuzz. And you can't get a clear signal.
Sure.
And you turn the volume way up, just hoping to catch something.
All right.
And then you come across something that's like 3,000 watts or 30,000 watts, and it's like, whoa, and you got to turn it down.
Oh, right.
That's what I felt when I heard the story of Jesus.
Good
I felt
metaphor.
like...
Interesting.
It felt like the truest thing I ever heard. And I believe that's a gift from God because not everybody experiences that. I just knew it was true. And he said, "Do you want to put your faith in him?" And I didn't even hesitate. I said, "Yes." And and that night, I felt inside of me change.
Wow.
And then the next morning, I came to the realization that I was supposed to teach Bible study to 10-year-olds.
Real, that was it?
And I'd never opened the Bible. And I got a crash course. And so my call to ministry, at that time youth ministry, happened simultaneously with my faith conversion.
Ah.
And that's all I've ever done ever since is ministry.
Interesting. You know, it sounds like it all started happening because you had your plan of purpose.
Yeah.
And it was working, right?
Yeah.
Even during the move, very difficult, West Coast in that situation to the Poconos, as you've explained, the high school, all that. And I just want to say something. When I first heard this, I've never forgotten it, and I forget where the quote comes from. You might know who started this quote, but if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
I know, I love that one.
That one's beautiful.
True.
Totally. And this is part why I bring it up, because this is part of what is happening here, or it happened here for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the coolest things this was in my previous church. I told the story of my conversion, how I was going to be a heart doctor, and somebody presented me with a stethoscope, and she told me, "You are a heart doctor."
Wow, love that. Did that get you?
It got me. Still to this day, when I think about that, it got me. That I knew my purpose all along, but I didn't know how it was going to show up.
Right.
I didn't know in what way. There's a part of me that sort of always knew, and God made it clear.
Yes, and you know, it's that love word that is so empowering, as you know. So let's talk about that a little bit, Jason, before we start to climb in all the way into it. So you were with your family. There's love there. Were they supportive of your transition, if we will, or transformation, I guess?
Not at all. Not at all. And that was the hardest thing, especially because I mentioned I was really close to my mother.
Yeah.
Real quick, my mother was diagnosed with MS when she was 23. It was right after she had me.
Oh, my goodness.
And by the time we were in the Poconos, she had to be in a wheelchair if we were doing a lot of walking. Mm-hmm. She could walk around the house, but if we were going to go out somewhere, in a wheelchair.
Right.
And so for whatever reason, and I think too because we had gone through a divorce and remarriage, we were just very close. I felt like she was my best friend.
Sure.
So we talked about everything, and she always celebrated everything I did except this.
Wow.
My parents, my mom, my stepdad were angry. My aunt, my mom's sister, jokes to this day and says, "It would have been better if you told me you were a drug dealer."
Oh my goodness. Big change, huh?
Yeah.
That's what they were confronting.
Yeah. And they weren't, my dad was sort of an angry ex-Catholic who was real mad at God. And my mom grew up with sort of nothing. I mean, she grew up in a nice family and they were Unitarian Universalists, but sort of. I mean, she didn't even know what that meant.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They went to church, they sang hymns, but her real religion was the Beatles, I think.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. But
product of the 60s, 50s, 60s.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Yeah. Now, interestingly, it was years later that she came to faith, and she said the reason she came to faith was me.
Oh.
And so that was, as hard as that time was, I had no idea what that was going to do later.
Right.
But yeah, they were not supportive. In fact, I was told if I shared my faith with my younger brother and sister, I would not be allowed to live at home anymore.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. They were worried that I, like my first fears, fell into a cult and I'm being brainwashed and,
Right.
I'm not getting a lot of sleep. And so
it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
The history that you're unwinding and, where they've come from.
Totally. Totally.
A little fear.
Yeah.
And we know we're dealing with fear and anxiety every day. We'll touch that as we go through. So that's, we get that. Did you lose any sense of love?
Never.
There you go.
Never.
Persevered.
Yeah.
Through a trust of love.
Yeah, because I knew, especially with my mom, I knew that was coming from a place, in her perspective, from love.
Right.
And although I was definitely wounded, I never held it against her.
Good for you.
My stepdad was a more complicated situation.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of substance abuse issues.
Yeah.
He was in prison. It was a different story.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But at least when it came to my mom, I just felt like the love never wavered.
That's beautiful.
Which is why kind of it hurt worse, but at the same time, it never wavered.
In the beginning, it must have really stung.
Because I wanted to share that. I was so excited.
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk about it. And when I started talking about it, I was just getting doors shut in my face from family members.
To have that feeling of being flush with your spirit now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I
felt like I finally was stepping into who I was meant to be.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted it.
Mm-hmm. Well, God certainly chose one of the right people in having you and
thank you.
Getting you to feel it. Because what you've been delivering all along the way, as you know, success is in the moment, not just the final product. So you've been successful for so long, Jason. And congratulations on, finding so early on, because I was an athlete myself and I thought I was going to make it. Hockey ended up being my sport amongst all of them except for water polo and rugby. I have friends that are in rugby and some in water polo, but you've done it all. It's that we have to go through things, as you well know, and you went through a lot of things, to open ourselves up and to feel that I need a little collaboration other than my family or my friends or whatever it might be, whether that's stepping out, meeting new people, but that big step of going into the Poconos and being in that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Interesting how it happened higher and higher elevation or up in the mountains and all. I enjoy nature so much.
Yeah.
I'm so driven by nature. And, being a God-willing man, it's really fit nicely into helping me through my situations. So, Jason, let's talk about how difficult was it for you to start understanding the language of the Bible or listening to the teaching of it?
Yeah, it's I needed help for sure. I think everybody does. It's the Bible was written in a culture that at the earliest is 2,000 years old.
Yeah.
So there has to be some interpretation of what's going on for you to correctly understand what's going on. I think you read the Bible on a few different levels. I do think you can read and not know much about the culture, read the Bible devotionally, and still feel God speaking to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also think there's a lot of room for misinterpretation if you don't kind of learn that or understand what was going on. So for me, it was a long, slow journey. I had a crash course in those first few days at camp.
Did.
I had a lot of friends. All the
That
other
lightning
counselors
bolt came down from above.
all the other counselors, they had little index cards and they would write for me key verses for me to look up.
Yeah.
And I devoured it. I was so hungry to learn. And the more I learned about Jesus, the more I just felt like this was the calling on my life. And but it was a long progression to sort of realize how all the pieces fit together and understanding. I mean, if you start, I can't tell you how many times when I was young and I started in the Old Testament, page 1. And, I get to halfway through Genesis and I'm like, all right, I can't.
I bet.
So that's why I think Genesis is probably the most read book in the Bible, because that's where everybody starts.
Right. Makes sense.
And then I realized that it was probably better for me to start with the New Testament. So I really understood as much as I could about Jesus and the circumstances around his life, death, and resurrection, and the early church and how and all of that, and then go backwards and sort of realize how the Old Testament pieces fit to really explain the fullness of Jesus and what he did. So I build my understanding of Scripture, and this is something I learned over the years. I build it from Easter in concentric circles outward. And here's what I mean, is that I believe that if Jesus did not rise from the dead, this is a giant waste of time. And I might as well just go to brunch on Sunday mornings.
Buy in or buy out.
Like, what are we doing? If he's not who he said he was and it didn't happen, I mean, I guess it could be a helpful philosophy to follow the teachings of Jesus, and maybe I could be a better person, quote unquote, but I don't know. It seems like a big waste of time. But if he did, then I have to take seriously who he said he was and what he says I should do. Not because he wants necessarily something from me. He wants something for me.
Yes.
And if I say yes to that, it's going to help me be the person I was created to be. And to be a part of what he is doing in the world. So because I believe he rose again, and I believe there's evidence that overwhelmingly affirms this, then I believe all the accounts of him I pay attention to, the people that were around him and the writers of the New Testament, the early church, all of that. So that helps me understand, and the disciples basically, going to their own death, saying that they believed he rose again.
Yeah.
I tend to believe that. So then I go back and I go, okay, Jesus was a rabbi who taught the Old Testament. So therefore, the Old Testament matters. Let's go back and let's dig in. But you see what I mean? It's concentric circles. We start with the resurrection and kind of go outward from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sort of in outlook all the way through.
Yeah.
Weaving the two together.
Yeah.
How that might be. Not easy for people, because I do know people who went into the ministry but didn't quite finish.
Yeah.
Difficult. Many years, grueling language to interpret. And then how are you able to speak that out too, not easy. How long of a period of time was it when you had that calling, you're up in the mountains in the Poconos, to when you actually started actively participating and in preaching?
Yeah. So, I went from camp. I did camp all throughout my years of college, graduated, then did youth ministry in churches for a few years. But I really didn't get to preaching until around the time of seminary. I was asked when I was in youth ministry a couple years before that to give a sermon or a message or a talk at like a youth event. I did a bunch of those. How'd
that feel?
It felt great.
Did it?
It felt like, oh yeah, this is the lane that I'm supposed to be in. But to be honest, I was running from being a pastor. And the reason is because I saw what pastors deal with, and a lot of it's not to do with any of the reasons I wanted to get into ministry.
Got it. Yeah.
Which is, to your point, this is why a lot of pastors burn out.
Yeah.
Is because you have to understand, best advice I ever got was from my old pastor. He said, Jason, if you're going to be a pastor, first of all, he goes, make sure there's nothing else you want to do, because I suggest you go do that. And he said, secondly, love, this was great. He said, love the church for what it is, not for what you think it should be.
Yeah.
And that's how you stay in ministry over the long haul. And what he meant was, the church is not a museum for saints, but a hospital for sinners.
That's another great saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that period of time was, I became a Christian at camp in the summer of 1992. And I entered seminary in the fall of 2006. So, 14 years. Yeah.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Growing and filling the whole time, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you start recognizing that you're going to have an audience other than the youth groups? And how was that?
It wasn't until seminary. So when I went to seminary, I wasn't even sure I wanted to be a pastor yet. I just knew I wanted the education.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I know.
You didn't listen to the guy who said if you weren't all in.
I don't know. I don't know what I was doing, but
your spirit's carrying you because, listen, this is part of the core energy dynamics.
Exactly.
It's one of the influencers, the spirit. So I'm very big into that.
Exactly right. So I was there in the first semester. I sort of knew, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do this. And but my first sermon wasn't until I started doing field education, which was, you get placed in a church and you kind of learn how to do it. You get a couple chances to preach. And those were the first times I did it. And I thought the first time I did it, I had a lot of really cool ideas I was so excited to share. But I felt like I just totally fumbled the ball on
the inner critic came in there, huh?
Well, actually doing it, thinking about it, so when you're in church and you sit back and maybe you see what the pastor does, you're like, I could do that, or why didn't he do that? Or why did he do it this way? It's easy to be a critic. And then you get up there and you're just like, yikes.
Freeze.
That's right.
As we were discussing off camera, coming in front of cameras changes us,
Totally.
The stage does. I mean, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And you're fabulous up there, by the way. I mean, we're going to get there.
Thank you.
We're getting there. So the age shift the transition was smooth. You just kept rolling with it?
Yeah. I think, when I got to my mid to late 20s and I really wanted to be married. I really wanted to have a family. And, I was wondering if that was just going to not happen for me. When you're single, you feel like it's never going to happen.
True.
And
particularly when you're so encaptivated with something like studying for ministry and things like that.
Yeah. So
not a lot of room.
No, but the Lord took care of me on that one, and I met Karen. We were both serving on staff of a mission trip that we were on. We met. We did a long distance relationship for a while. This was during the youth ministry years, and then we got married right in 2001.
Karen is still in Cali?
Karen was in California at the time. Yeah. And I was in Philadelphia.
Oof.
And we did long distance for a while, and then we ended up.
Boy,
I know we were like the one success story.
You are a man of purpose, connection, love. I mean, you really got it all going in your life before even getting up on the stage and doing what you do over at Tower Hill.
Yeah, it's funny. You always look at someone else's story and you think, I must have been great getting to have those things and getting to have those experiences. And when it's your own story, you're just like, it's great, but man, I got the scars.
Yeah, you bet. And that's what character building and all that, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Everyday stress and anxiety must have been tied in there for you for some time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How'd you deal with that?
Not great. Not healthy. So
it's not easy.
No. So, I'd often look for just escapism.
Back to that routine. That's always our go-to, the easy way.
Yeah. And it took me a long time to feel like, again, from my childhood experience, it took me a long time to feel like somebody really loved me for who I am.
Wow.
Because I was used to, when I bore my soul of who I really was, getting rejected.
Right.
And I know now that that's what was going on with me and feeling like people didn't really love me for who I am, but loved me for how I made them feel or, how I performed in my job or something like that. And so I
awesome.
Definitely battled depression during those years for sure. Never diagnosed or anything like that, but I know that that's what it was.
Yeah. You worked it out on your own.
I did, and a lot of prayer and a lot of trust that God would see me to whatever. I mean, He brought me that far. I knew He was just going to leave me there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
In the core energy dynamics, we have disciplines and influencers, and the disciplines work like this. You get all this. This is you, obviously. It's actually you, and I'm taking it, or we are. But anyway, it's the awareness, acceptance. We move into the validation. That opens us up to opportunity. And then we have choice. So we profess conscious choice, right? And then with that, we are now able to start trusting our process into our transition and eventually our transformation, which is going on all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, many, many stages.
Yeah.
You've already started in a little bit of period, shown us a peak of it, of many different stages.
Yeah.
That brings us into sort of our whole. It helps. And then with the influencers, it's environmental, emotional, physical, and of course, spiritual. And these are our influences that happen inside and out, as you know. The spirituality of it all is just so empowering. Now, let's fast forward, if we will, to your ability to go through all these stages, different stages, all these different transformations. How did you and Karen, I suppose at this time, stumble upon Tower Hill First Presbyterian Church in Red Bank, New Jersey, Monmouth County?
Yeah. So I was the pastor of a small, declining church with not many people in it in Woodbridge area. And the reason was I wanted, right out of seminary, I graduated in 2009, went to this church in 2009. I wanted a church where I could learn to be a pastor. And you know what I felt like? I felt like I could do no harm here. It's already in need of help. I could come and hopefully help. And it was, honestly, it was within the first week, I knew this was not going to be a long-term assignment.
Wow, you learned things quickly.
I felt like it wasn't. And, but I didn't panic. I said, all right, Lord, however long this assignment lasts, just let me know. I was there for 3 years. We were there 3 years. And I felt like it was time. I think because the church, they didn't really want what I was most passionate about. So I was really passionate about revitalizing churches and trying to reach younger generation.
Because you came through the era when the churches were in a decline, became on a major decline, yeah?
Yeah. And so
did you see that? Did you feel that? What was it that
what do you mean, that I wanted to?
Yeah, that you wanted to help out the...
I don't know. I was tired of hearing the narrative that, well, God's just done with these historic churches because they're too stubborn, they're too this, or decline.
That's what they were saying?
And and that, non-denominational churches, and actually to this day, still growing, still getting bigger. Yeah. And I have nothing against, there's a lot that I love about, I could be a part of a non-denominational church, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you can speak in front of all of them as far as I'm concerned. You're such an excellent speaker, but anyway.
Well, thank you. But I really was interested in how do we got all these churches and they have buildings and they have resources, they have people, they have Christians. Why can't they figure out how to be a part of what God's doing, be a part of God's mission? What good is our faith if there's no one in the room to hand it off to?
Yeah.
So I just got really passionate about not just me being the pastor of a church that was doing that, but how do I help other churches do that? And that was pretty early on. I had that feeling.
You wanted to scale. Sounds like.
But that church, a lot of lovely people, and we have some good memories there, but they just didn't want to go where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was going to drive them crazy and they were going to drive me crazy. And it just felt like it was time to look for whatever that next thing God had for me. So in the Presbyterian church, it works just a lot like a job interview in the sense where you have the agency to look at whatever churches have openings, and then if they like you, it's like a job search, job interview situation.
Sure.
And I was convinced that I was going to be the next pastor at First Pres Boulder, Colorado.
Aha.
So
beautiful out there.
I'd gotten into the
Boulder.
I know. I'd gotten into the process, and I just felt like, when you're really hoping for something, you sort of overread signs. Oh, there's a sign. Look, hey, you see that says Colorado. You know what I mean?
This is why we be careful about all predicting the future.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
You know how it is. 9 times out of 10, or whatever the number is, it's just not going to happen. Again, It's God's way of saying, "Oh, you got a plan, huh? Well, let's see."
Totally. So I had a pastor colleague who ran a prayer group, and they would meet, I think it was twice a year at Princeton Seminary, to just do some spiritual recharge for pastors. And
nice.
I got invited to this group. I met this guy. His name's
Princeton's
Jonathan.
been very good about all that, by the way.
Yeah. Jonathan Miller is his name. He's long since retired, but he once, many moons ago, was a youth director or youth pastor at Tower Hill, like in the, I think the 80s, 70s or 80s,
What
something
was
like
his
that. Jonathan Miller.
Okay.
So he says, hey, I know a church that's looking and I feel like you'd be a great fit. And I'm like, I'm already, because I figured I was going to Colorado. And he goes, you should talk to them. And I think just out of respect for him, I said yes. And I talked with their search committee. Yeah. And we did a video interview. And I remember getting off that call and thinking, oh my gosh, I think I'm supposed to go to this church. I just felt like, again, this feels like where I'm supposed to go. The next morning, the Boulder church called and said, we decided to go with another candidate. And I felt like that was God's way of saying,
you bet.
Here you go. So we went through the process, and I was hired and started in September 1st, 2012, just a month before Sandy.
Wow. You really stepped into it.
Yeah.
The more we're unwinding you, it's so interesting because you've gone through a lot of this trauma in different ways. You couldn't even build up to it. It was just happening.
Yeah.
And, each time you were able to come out of it quite quickly. And this is what, this is why I like listening to you all the time. Because in our core understanding, our core beliefs, if we hang on to them, we're going to work ourselves through it. It's just trusting our process.
Yeah.
But we need also to collaborate. We don't succeed in isolation, as you know. We need collaboration. We need to, feel the love. Is there real love there? Are we really in? Or, all of that. And thank goodness that you came to Tower Hill. We're so thankful.
Well, it's been one of the biggest blessings that I've gotten to enjoy is being the pastor there, and all of the ups and downs, and there have been many.
Yes.
But to see where we are now is a little bit of a pinch me kind of moment every Sunday, because there was a time when I didn't think there's no way I even dreamed that it would be like this.
So let's talk about it. How did you start building it out to what it is? And I don't want to give anything away. I want you to tell the story because it's just fabulous. As you know, the audience does know that we did have Dan on, and he did unwind some of it for us. But, that's past. So if you will take us, it'd be great.
So I was hired for a very specific purpose. I was a pretty young hire for them. In fact, I believe I was technically the second youngest ever hired as the senior pastor there since the late 1800s.
Wow.
And the reason was I had a skill set that they really were looking for, and that's this. I had experience planting contemporary style worship services in traditional churches while not getting rid of traditional, but having them coexist.
The secret?
Well, there's a lot to it.
Do you want to tell us the stuff? Okay, you're unwinding? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
Go. Yep.
But we can put a tack in that and come back to it. But
of course. Yeah, I got it.
So I was hired and I was told explicitly, we need you to grow our contemporary service. Don't touch the traditional. Mm-hmm. In fact, in the interview process, we were pretty far along. Like they were pretty sure they're going to hire me, and I was pretty sure I was going to say yes. And I told them, I said, I don't do a robe. I just never felt like that was me.
Yeah.
And they actually had to say, we joke about it now, but they actually say, we'll get back to you. Like they had to have a conversation about it. Yeah, because it was a very, very traditional church that had a reputation from years back about being like the magnet traditional music destination. I mean, our handbell program once played for presidents, like that kind of thing. Traveled the world. Yeah, Tower Hill youth handbell program played at the White House. And I mean, all these stories, but...
I got mentioned to you one time, my mom was a beller.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So, but by the time 2012 had come around, I think the imagination of the congregation was, we are still that church. Mm. But the reality was they've been in decline for a long time.
Yeah.
And what had happened was they were hemorrhaging young families. Young families were leaving to go find more contemporary style worship.
Wait, hang on for a second, if you don't mind. What do you think was drawing it down from the traditional? And why
Yeah.
was there a shift going on there? What was it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't unique to Tower Hill. I mean,
Yeah.
42 million people left church in the last 25 years.
Holy cow.
And
Unbelievable.
the reason is the way that I frame it is the language of traditional worship was not speaking to this new group of young adults with children. And what they were discovering, so the Northeast is always a few years behind the trend nationally
Yes.
when it comes to church.
Yes, definitely.
So they were just discovering contemporary worship and what it was. And other parts of the country, they just called that worship. It wasn't contemporary anything. That's just what you do.
Sure.
And so they're like, oh, we find this a lot more engaging and meaningful, and we're getting so much more out of it. So we want Tower Hill to do this. And Tower Hill's like, well, I don't think we're going to do that. So they started a Saturday night contemporary service, and like, no, we want Sunday morning with Sunday
Can
school.
you explain to the audience what contemporary means?
Contemporary just simply means a modern worship service. So if a traditional is pipe organ, handbells, choir, liturgy, more formal,
Yes.
then contemporary is casual rock and roll / folk style music. Trying to, we use a lot of visual elements as well. Just a whole different feel that speaks to just kind of a different cultural language.
Keeps you a little shift going a little bit here. and
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Definitely.
So, but that's why I was hired. Say, hey, you know how to do this, and families are leaving for other churches, and we know we have a problem. And they hired me, and I remember. So Dan was already Dan Corboy was already the music director. He had never done it before, and I felt like both of us were just figuring it out as we went. It was easy at first to make changes because there were easy changes to make.
Right.
Like we started out and we were singing.
It's like an open field.
It was. I'll talk about low hanging fruit. I mean,
Right.
You could instantly make things better. The band was singing through I don't remember if he told you this, but through gooseneck condenser microphones.
No, really?
Like you don't do a rock band through, right? It's a mess just for the ears.
Of course.
But plus we're in a room that's just a box, and the speakers were indoor-outdoor speakers that were mounted in each corner. So all the sound was just kind of jumbling together, and there's all sorts of feedback problems, and these were easy fixes to make. We were running the computer on a rickety card table in front, like right in line of sight. People were leaving to go to the bathroom. Like it was easy to fix some things. And we did. We slowly just started making the changes that I felt needed to be made, and as we went, we started to grow. And it was slow at first, and we picked up momentum. At one point, I think it was only a year and a half later, we were starting to think, oh my gosh, we're going to outgrow the fellowship hall.
And this is just one worship.
Yeah, one worship service. So I think we went from in the first year, I think it was something like, my numbers might not be perfect, but I think we went from about 40, and we ended up around 120.
Holy cow.
And then once we got to 2014, we knew we had to do something, either add another contemporary in the fellowship hall or move into the sanctuary that had so much more seating. It made a lot more sense if we can invest in all the technology we needed, that it would benefit everybody.
Right.
A better sound system would benefit traditional as well, so on and so forth. And so we did a big capital campaign. We raised the money. We made the changes, and we made a lot of changes to that sanctuary that a lot of people don't.
Sure did.
People there now don't know what we did.
As I mentioned to you, but also, when we moved here in the 60s, so Mom joined right away. So I've been in
so
it,
you've
been in
seen it.
I've been in and out of there, yes.
Yeah, you saw the
Yes.
changes that we made to accommodate both styles. Because
Yes.
as you know, we really try to change the atmosphere for each style of service. So traditional, it should look like it always has.
Right.
And contemporary, we try to make it look like a little more casual, different environment.
Thank goodness, because personally for me, and I've spoken with a lot of people about this, we get a little tied up after a while. Same thing, almost you get anticipation.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily work all the time. Probably part of the reason it was falling apart.
Yeah.
But of course, sign of the times too, And of course, you didn't do it alone.
No.
A lot of collaborative, co-creating, all that, fellowship. Again, we need one another, and that's part of the gift that we've been given to be able to communicate. And in communication, you know, the strongest meaning of communication is the listening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And not so easy to do in many different ways. But my goodness, look what you've done with it all. So I interrupted you. Over 2,000, and now you're building out more. You're scaling more.
We added that. So we went into the sanctuary in 2014, and 2015. We moved into the sanctuary, and between then and the pandemic, it was a slow, steady build. But I mean, I say slow, but we were growing at about 20 to 30% a year during that time as we were figuring out. And
were you marketing any of it?
Zero.
All word of mouth.
All word of mouth.
That is fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah.
That right there is so empowering.
Yeah. And I think the hardest part of that, there were some dark times for me that were really difficult. You know, whenever you're leading change in an organization, you learn through your lumps.
Or you're taking risk.
Totally.
It's got to be calculated risk. At times, it's got to be, you know, just believe in the Lord.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Believe in our gift to trust our process.
Well, and you mentioned process. The thing that I really learned was if you have a good process for leading change in any organization, that's the secret sauce. It's not the giftedness of the leader. It's really not. It's not the vision. You actually, the most important thing you can do when you're leading change, I've discovered, and this is actually backed up by Dr. John Cotter at Harvard University, is you build a sense of urgency.
Yeah. And people come together under that. That's part of that herd mentality.
Exactly. That's why. So if you tell me, because there are a lot of people like, well, churches will never change. I'm like, yeah, look at the pandemic. Churches that you never would have thought all figured out how to stream their services online.
Quickly
never
too.
did any technology or anything.
Right.
They figured it out. Why? Because of the urgency. And I feel like this is kind of the thing that I get really passionate about is the church in America. There's so many churches just sitting on their hands with no sense of urgency. Yeah. And I look around at the world around us, and I'm like, if the world doesn't need the light of Jesus now more than ever, I don't know what world you're looking at.
What's the complacency for? What are people waiting for?
Well,
what is that?
People are afraid to lose what they love.
So, to me, it's that being oh my gosh, it just gets me going. People are so used to being comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It should be the other way around. Yeah. Be uncomfortable getting comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's part of where that complacency comes from.
It's it. And also there's a real strong nostalgia. So especially for older generations who their kids were raised in church, there's something very comforting about the routine, about what, everything in my life is changing. Yeah. And so church, I just want it to be the same.
Yeah.
I get that. But also that's not what we're called to do. That, at least, that's
change.
When I read the Bible, it says you need to go and be part of God's work in the world. You need to share his light and love now. This is your only job. And there's probably not a whole lot of it that's going to be comfortable.
It's definitely not. Not when it's new and different.
Exactly. So,
there's one constant in life. Change.
It's exactly right.
Where does that come from? Time.
Yeah.
What's time do? It goes forward. So why are we waiting? Why do we hold back? That's one thing I always like to push out.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Tomorrow's here. Let's go. Let's just keep going. Experience.
And life's going to change anyway. You might as well be intentional about
it. That's it. Exactly. Whether you like it or not.
That's right.
We can sit here all day long, but life's changing as we speak.
That's right.
So
fast forward to now, and especially on the other side of the pandemic, because we were faithful and kind of doing all these things as a team, as a church, we were ready for when the world opened back up and people wanted to go back to church.
Yeah.
They kind of flocked to us. We since 2022, we've been growing by 100 people in worship a week every year.
Yeah. Wow.
So
wow.
I think when I started, we had maybe between two services, we had like 300 worshipers, which is a lot. Mm-hmm. It was still a sizable church. Definitely. And today we're worshiping about 1,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful?
It's, like I said, I can't even, you know what's funny though? And maybe this is this helps me to see this a little bit. getting to tell the whole story with you.
Sure.
Is I wonder if it's my trauma, but there is a part of me that thinks, Jason, don't mess this up. Like it's a house of cards. Like I'm going to do something. I'm going to say the wrong thing.
No.
And there's that weird fear in me that, Jason, you're going to, don't mess it up, Jason, you know? Yeah. And
fear's an alarm clock, Jason.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You know, hey, listen, you know, fear happens, but courage is a decision. Fear is a reaction.
Yeah.
You know? And you're a very courageous man.
Thank you.
And everything you've been pointing out tonight is tremendous to hear. I would like to touch or get in a little deeper how, oh my gosh, the youth group at Tower Hill is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Do you know the count roughly?
I think we're averaging it. So Sunday school, I think we've gotten as many as like 180 just kids, and then
Wow.
Sunday or weekly
Wow.
fellowship groups, it's maybe like 130. So I mean, the best part about it is I get to see it firsthand because my kids have all gone through the youth program and seeing how it's impacted them, and the fact that pastors' kids are a little bit notorious for like not walking the straight and narrow.
Is that like being a cop's son or
I think
daughter?
that's exactly what that is. Whatever that dynamic is, I think that's it. But all three of my kids have a tremendous faith, and you know, my sons right now, my daughter's off at college. My sons right now, they do not want to miss, and they'll move their schedule around, or they'll say no to other things that they want to do so that they can be there on Wednesday nights or Tuesday nights.
Huge.
And usually when kids start driving is when they start to check out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the coolest things is my son, when he started driving in October, I think if anything, he's gotten more involved, which is, you know.
Bet.
Yeah.
You
So
bet.
but that's because, you know, Lindsay Larkin, our director of Next Gen, and all of the Next Gen team, all the volunteers are just
people.
pouring their lives into these kids and helping them. You know what they're doing? They're doing what I wish someone had done for me when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that my kids get to have that. Because all kids need someone else other than their parents talking to them about this stuff.
100%.
Right? I mean,
we know that. It's that wah. It's that, you know, that
Exactly.
Charlie Brown. It's so true.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we become like that as parents.
Yeah.
And even when, you know, we want to say something, we realize, you know what, we can't say it right here and now. And I think as a parent, it's one of the most difficult things to do is to bite your tongue and say, nope, I can't do it right now. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So, you know, for me, Jason, being in there and having seen a lot of this transition, I was out for a bit for different reasons. But when I'm in there now, over these years, just watching the youth group come in, it's got to be represent a quarter, a third of whether it's the two contemporaries or the traditional.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen anything like it in my life. I've traveled enough to say to say that it's extremely unique.
Yeah. It's really special. And I think the neatest part is that all of these high schoolers or students, they all know that they're deeply loved. And a lot of times, you know, they go off to college and they'll stay in touch and they'll reach out with questions. I remember just almost every year there's a student that goes out to college that I didn't even particularly have much of a relationship with, but they'll send me an email. Hey, my professor said this in class. What do you think? Or, hey, I'm looking for a church. Do you know of any where I'm going to school, you know, that would be good for me? I mean, I love that we've created that culture where they feel like they can. They can ask. They know that we care about them, and
they need
great.
that because children are so curious. You know, we're born with curiosity. You know, we're born a lot of things, but curiosity and being habitual are two things, and they sort of collide.
Yeah.
And when we're young, if we don't have those mentors around us, other than our parents or siblings, whatever it might be, you know, we sort of go down different paths we probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
Normally. So back to it. Is there a secret sauce, or is it just that calling from when you were a freshman at Allegheny, and you got that call. You got the invite, and that night it came to you, and even more powerful the next day. Is that part of your ability to relate to the youth and build such a phenomenal program? It's one of the largest programs in the country. Is that correct?
I don't know. I mean, there are megachurch programs that are, they got way more people. But as far as I think as far as Presbyterian churches go,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
I believe we're the largest in the state of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And we're in the top 1% of our whole denomination, which is awesome.
Fabulous.
I mean,
Fabulous.
it's cool that we get to. It's also an indicator of like the denomination shrank, so our church even looks a lot bigger than a big church used to look. But
Right.
but with all of that, the secret sauce is of course it's a combination. God calls each and every one of us to be where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there. And I always tell people, I always tell other pastors, I'm like, don't try to be me. Don't try to be the other pastor don't try to be them. God made you the way you are, and he put you where you are to be you.
Yes.
To be authentically, uniquely you, and just trust that that's the group you're supposed to be you to. Mm-hmm. And so I've trusted that. And the thing that made me was I was very skeptical of religious institutions. And so I'm always thinking of how would somebody who's doesn't have a relationship with God or who is skeptical of church, how are they reacting to this thing I'm doing or saying? So I'm thinking ahead of that and thinking, well, I'm not going to say it like that. I'm going to say it like this. Or even just, I want to make sure that on a regular basis, I welcome people who don't know what they think about Jesus and they're in the room. I just want them to feel welcome. Like, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
Come with your questions. I promise God
Sure.
can handle them.
Yeah.
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 But you got to wrestle with your doubts. You got to deal. Otherwise, you don't have real faith at all.
That's right.
If you don't ever wrestle with what you believe in, do you really believe it? I don't know.
Right.
Right?
Purpose. We were born with purpose, right?
Yeah.
And to move on with what you're talking about, and that's given to us. Mm-hmm. It's part of our spirituality. And as you know, when people lose their purpose, look out.
Yeah.
You went through it.
Yep.
I've been through it. We all go through it. Yeah. Every one of us. So it's nice to have a place to go to, like you've created Tower Hill. And again, such a special spot. Every time I walk in and out of there, people are saying hello. I'm saying hello. It's a quick, feel good. Everyone feels good in there, Jason. So phenomenal work, really. It's
Thank
just
you.
been very, very special. And keep pushing it out. I do, and I know a lot of other people, and you can see how it's happened now that, just to plant those seeds, just for you to be trusting your process, believing in yourself, to step out, take the risk, and to go for it. We hear it is a calling, yes, but if we're not listening properly, then we might miss a calling for a moment and maybe come down longer, but it's eventually there for us.
Yeah.
But having you, people like you, particularly you, Jason, is phenomenal. And to have all those people enjoy going there, every Sunday and more, with the children taking time out during the week, that's tremendous.
It's awesome.
And to see that the children have bought into it. Now we're starting to come to our end of our time a little bit. A couple more questions real quick. Are you witnessing the same energy that you have created at Tower Hill and other Presbyterian churches as far as youth groups, contemporary?
Yeah, there are some. There are some.
What do you mean by some?
So there are some colleagues that I know of who have churches where they're seeing some life in this area.
I was hoping to hear a more larger word than some. Anyway.
Yeah, it's we're a struggling denomination.
Right.
And again, like I said, my whole hope is that pastors and church folks would be open and willing to listen to the Holy Spirit and stop being afraid about taking a risk.
Yeah.
Because this younger generation, this generation that's under 30 years old, all the way down. So technically there's 3 generations, but all the way down, there is a hunger for God like I've never seen in my lifetime.
Good.
And you don't know how long this door is going to stay open. And I'm like, churches, you are perfectly set up for this. So don't waste any more time. I think you were in the front row actually. When I mentioned in church recently, I said, my biggest fear, I don't want to play church. I have no interest in us all gathering on a Sunday morning and saying nice things to nice people and then going back into our everyday lives as if nothing has changed.
Yes.
I want transformation for me.
Love it.
And for everybody else.
Yes.
I want to be different when I walk out than when I walk in.
Yeah.
And I feel like if churches have that mentality, it makes room for God to do his thing. And that's what I want more than anything.
Yes.
That's what I want more than anything.
Well, you set the stage for sure. So thank you for that. So we are about the end of our time. And I'd just like to ask you one last question, if you don't mind. As you know, the world is in a very tumultuous time right now. A lot of changes. Talk about transformations. There's a lot going on out there. And I was going to add on, but I won't. So you're a white piece of paper right now, blank sheet. What would Pastor Jason Tucker like to see happen to the world as it is today?
I want the world to open themselves up to the voice of God, specifically in Jesus Christ, because I believe that's where you find your true identity and your true purpose and your true calling. And I believe that it would lead to reconciliation. It would lead to racial justice. It would lead to economic justice. It would lead to literally world peace. Do I expect that will happen this side of heaven according to what Scripture tells us? Chances are low. But I do believe it will happen. That one day, the promise is there'll be no more tears.
Right.
There'll be no more pain. And I want everybody in on it. I don't want anybody out. I want everybody in on it. So somebody asked me once, said, Jason, who are you trying to reach?
Oh, interesting.
And I said, everybody.
There we go. Great answer. And you've been doing it.
And I don't want to stop.
Yeah.
As much as I can. How do we reach everybody? Because I believe that we have something to offer that is the greatest news that the world's ever heard. It's the greatest news I ever heard.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Jason, you've been phenomenal. Really very special. Well, audience, there you have it. I'm sure you've been attached to your seat all night long. We could go on and on with Jason, and Jason would like to have you back sometime.
Thank you. I'd love it.
Really love to do that. It'd be really a lot of fun. With that, audience, we'd like to thank Rect Productions tonight, and also Alex Fabio. He is a part of this podcast as well. With that, Jason, is there anywhere you would like to point people to reach out to you? How would you like that? Yeah,
so I've got an email that's attached to the podcast and church leadership stuff that I do. It's easiest to that, so it doesn't get confused with the church email, but jason@reclaimedleader.com. And that's the name of the podcast, as well as a podcast for churches. And that's a great way to get a hold of me.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Fantastic. Well, I certainly encourage everyone that's been listening to take Jason up on that. Why not? Let's give him more work to do. He can definitely handle it. At that, everyone, thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, remember, your mind is your power. Stay empowered.